All right. This is a real productive Sunday morning for me here. It's Labor Day weekend, and I want to show you this thing. This is my hot rod. This is the car I can boogie in. This is what I've been using. This is why I haven't had time to deal with anything else. But this car is a Boogie Master. Boogie Master. That's right. Quote me on that. This is a 1985 Lincoln Town Car base model. Now, before I even get started on anything, you guys already know I'm going to tell you about the brakes. When you do one part of the brake system, you've got to do the entire thing, because if you don't do the entire thing, you're going to be dealing with a system of failures all down the line. So as you can tell, by the way I started the video, I have already replaced the entire brake system in this car. Because, look, I'll tell you, but I did the whole brake system in the car, so trust me on it. That seems to be a thing you're gonna have to do. So consider that when you get these old cars, that you want to be a safe operator, and the first thing you want to do after you get the car running is to make sure you can get the car to stop. Does it run? Does it start? Yeah. Does it run? Yeah. Does it stop? Yes. So that's what you got to be wary of. So when I go through these walkarounds, I'm pretty much telling you that I replaced the entire brake system in these cars, just because, that's not one thing you want to play with. And even more than that, it's just that once you do the whole thing, you know that it's done. All right, so this car, 85 town car, my buddy had the car the same color back in the 90s. And I said, man, I like the 85 more than the other ones. I had an 88 also, but this grill right here, and it's also that in 85 you can get a base model, and during the later years you couldn't really get a base model because everything was really loaded up. You say, well, it's a Lincoln, right? So it's going to be loaded anyway. Yeah, but there was also base model loaded cars. So there were cars that had all of the amenities of a luxury car, but didn't pile extra junk on. So this is an 85. It's not a Cartier. It's not a signature series. It's not an executive series. It's just a base model town car. And that's what I love about these. The 86, the 85, the 86, and the 87 were like the last time you can get a base model town car, which just had your basic amenities. So I love this front end also. This front end on the Panther, for the Panther platform, it is so beautiful. Love that grill, man. That grill is just like, that's the traditional Lincoln grill right there. That egg crate setup right there. So when I got it, it had steel wheels on it and it had Lincoln hubcaps. Didn't like those, so I got these. Can't remember what they're called, but I think they're called Outlaws, American Racing Wheel Outlaws. So I got these Outlaw wheels, and I put them on the car. From back here, it's a 20-foot car. So when you're looking at it from, I'm about, 15 feet away? So from back here, 20 feet, looks like a great car, right? But, it's not. It's a hoopty. It's a piece of junk. But the fact is, I've made this car so fast, well, not really fast, but let's say that I made the car so responsive. It's a great car to drive, man. It's a great car to drive. Now, for those of you who remember these older cars, steering in these cars was pretty sloppy because it was basically feather. It was feather touch steering. You can drive the car with one finger on the wheel, and then you could able to manipulate it and everything. And then, so for those of you who expect the more responsive type steering setup, nah, this is not it. But then again, you people wouldn't drive this car anyway because you've been used to driving those Euro sedans, and you need to feel the road. For people who don't want to feel the road, that's why you buy an American car. That's why you buy an American car. So anyway, walk around. Might as well start on the other side. Oh man, gotta drink some Metamucil or something. So anyway, this car was solid, and the one time I bring it home, the one time I parked it in front of the house, the one time I come back and there's a tree sitting on the car. So this damage right here, you know, the damage right here. I mean, seriously, right here. Can you see it? Can you see that? It wasn't there right? I spend all this time getting this car ready for a road trip. Now, when I do this, that's how I test the cars. If the car can make it from New York City to Albany, it's a roadworthy car. If I have any problems, I got AAA, so I just call them, or I'll just find myself in advance. Well, actually, I don't really look for advance. I look for an AutoZone or Pep Boys because I have an account with them. So I'll look for an AutoZone if I have a problem. And in cars like this, I mean, the only problem you're generally going to have is, look, no fuel, no spark. Okay, so if you got no fuel, then that means you either got a fuel pump failure, right? If you've got no spark or a fuel pump relay, but if you've got no spark, normally in this car, it's going to be the ignition control module, which is mounted at the base of the distributor, which was a problem. But everybody who has a Ford from this era knows that that ignition control module is just like a Chrysler. Chrysler has that ballast resistor that they mount on the firewall, and that can fail at any moment, so you carry a spare with you. So if you have one of these cars and it's got the ignition control module mounted to the base of the distributor, it wouldn't hurt to carry another one with you. And you want that one to be a name brand one too. You don't want one of those cheap Chinese ones. You want something that's either high quality Japanese part or an American made part. You know, that's the only way you're going to be able to make that do. But what I do is, if I can make it from Brooklyn to Albany without a problem, the car is roadworthy. If I can make it back without a problem, now I know I have double confidence that this car is roadworthy. So what I don't tend to do is I don't tend to bring anybody with me, because if I have a problem, I don't want to, I don't want to be carrying a bunch of people until I test its roadworthiness out. I don't know what you guys do. Drop me a comment in the line down below. How do you test your cars for roadworthiness after you get them and after you do your fixings? All right. So anyway, either way, on this one, like I said, I parked the car in front of the house. I come out, and that's before people started talking about climate change and greenhouse effect. So there was a storm, and the storm had crafted up some strong winds, some mighty winds, and then it had chopped up a tree trunk. Not a tree trunk, but a tree limb. I come down there, there's a dang tree limb sitting on a damn car. The one time you park in front of the house is the one time there's going to be a tornado or some type of some wind gust weather report. That means, you know. So anyway, so that's where that damage came from, because it wasn't there before. I got to tell you, okay, so I bought this car from a guy in Long Island. He was in wasn't Mineola. It was one of them southern towns. Uh, Atlantic Beach. I don't know, it was somewhere over. It was definitely Nassau County. I bought it from a guy in Nassau County. He had caught a DUI, so with that DUI, he had to get rid of his cars. Now he had 3 Lincolns there, and he had something in the garage. It was a Chrysler 300 New Yorker, something like that, 69. You know, but he had to get rid of his stuff, because he got that DUI, and they were going to tax. When you catch a DUI in New York, DWI or whatever, they throw the book at you. They hit you with all types of penalties. You got to pay all types of fees, man. So I'd advise you guys, never catch a DUI in New York, because they will throw the book at you. They'll have you paying $1,000, $2,000 in tickets and fines and penalties and fees, man. So, you know, I don't drink, so I don't worry about that. But I'm not gonna have that, impinge my CDL, because I got a CDL and I got all the dang endorsements, and I see all of them. So I'm not gonna mess it up with no DUI. Let me just break for a minute, right? I had a friend of mine, Freddie. Freddie had his CDL, and he was making good money as an over-the-road truck driver. Freddie caught a DUI. For 3 years, Freddie couldn't work as a driver. So, Freddie was on hard times, man, because he went from making good money as a truck driver to catching that DUI, and now he's on Broke Street. So I mean, that tells you, if that tell you anything, you better watch the people you hang out with, because some of these dudes will have you on Broke Street and then laugh at you because you messed up a great opportunity for yourself. But anyway, back to the car. So these are American Racing Wheel Outlaws, right? I think that's what they'll call them. Um, like I said, I did the brake caliper, brake pads, and brake hoses, and the steel brake line from this car, left and right, front and rear, because, once you start getting these old cars, man, and start turning the wrench to them, stuff is just going to pulverize right in your hand. So expect that. Expect that. Uh, I get the car. Uh, I don't think that window rolled down, so I had to take the motor apart. And here's the thing, guys. Let me just take a knee for this one right here. These cars come with nylon bushings in the window motor. Those tend to disintegrate over time. So what happens is the motor will turn, but it's not transmitting that rotary action to those nylon balls, what actually moves the crank. So what you could do is you could use nuts. You can use 7/16 of an inch nut, right? 7/16 inch nuts, three of them. You put them where the nylon balls used to be, and then you'll have an opportunity to use the motor to descend and ascend the window. Now, you can also just go to Pep Boys and then buy the window balls for nylon balls. They're like $30. And they also come with their own packing grease. So, like I said, I took all the window motors out and I put nuts in them to keep them functional. Because I had a whole bunch of nuts. And actually, when you go to Home Depot, you can buy a whole big basket of 7/16 nuts, and it's only like $5. So if I had to do, put the nylon balls in, that's $30 a window. So, and it was in my best interest economically. If you're going to tool a hoopty, you don't really care that much about, keeping it OEM. If you're going to, you got to come to this conclusion. If you're going to push a hoopty, you know that you are not putting a lot of effort into keeping this car stock. So if you got to, cob job something together, I'm not paying $30 for nylon balls for each window. If I can get a whole basket, if I can get a whole box full of 7/16 nuts from Home Depot for $5.83. So anyway, I'm just saying, just gotta draw that conclusion. If you change, that's what I'm saying to you right now, right? So anyway, rear door. The rear door, when I got it, it stopped opening from the outside. Took the panel apart, and there's a rod that connects the inside door handle to the outside door handle, and then the actuator rod to open the door. Don't have that, and I really don't care about fixing it because I'm not sitting in the back anyway. So, if you wanted to do that, I suppose you can fabricate a metal clip, like a shoehorn clip, and you can do that to keep the linkage between the door handle and the inner door latch, keep that functional. But like I said, I'm not sitting in the back, so I didn't really care about it. Uh, it's got the vinyl roof on it. It's seen better years. Like I said, I don't care that much about it because that's the whole point of having a hoopty is you can push this thing all around the city and, dings and scratches and nicks, they don't bother you. So what I did was I just hit it with some black spray paint from Home Depot, 99 cents a can. As you can tell, this roof is rough, rough. It's like McGruff the crime dog. How's things doing over there, McGruff? Rough. They're doing rough. So, you know, I'm not tearing it. I'm not tearing the vinyl top off. I'm not going to fix it. I mean, there are other better Lincolns in better shape, you know, but this one is like a great hoopty. You put this thing on the highway and it just cooks, man, and I'll explain how I got it to cook later on. But, anyway, so we'll continue with the walk around. The guy caught a DUI. He caught a DUI, so he had to get rid of all his cars. He had like 3 Lincolns and a Chrysler in the garage. All right, so I saw this one, and this is one I was looking for, a box body. Like I said, I had one. I had an 88 back in the early 2000s, but I wanted the older models because these are they're more crude. I can't say crude, but they're less sophisticated than the one I had. I had an 88 Signature Series with a moon roof, and it was real fancy, man. And it just like you felt bad driving that car because it was like, man, this car is beautiful. It was black and with a blood red interior, you know, Signature Series. So it had like it had the electronic dashboard on it, you know, the vacuum fluorescent display. But this one, analog gauges, yeah, man, this is what I was looking for right here. You know, hot rod Lincoln. You know, something I can make look real fancy. Well, not make it look fancy, but I can make it, you know, anyway. So power antenna, that still works even though the radio doesn't. Uh, I wanted to wire it for a new radio. I just haven't had time to do it. Got a radio in there. I was going to run an amp. Now, whoever had this car before me and before that guy, he must have been a young whippersnapper because when I took the rear seats out, there were cutouts for 10-inch subwoofers. So there are two 10-inch subwoofers that were mounted behind the rear seat. And they are still there. They're just missing the foam surrounds. The surrounds have deteriorated. So I had ordered some surrounds that I got in the house that I put the foam surrounds back on the things, and they probably still work. I don't know. So we get down here to this wheel. Like I said, when you do the brakes, you always expect weird surprises. The wheel stud broke off, and you know, wanted to replace that, but I haven't get to. These tires have dry rot because this car's been sitting here for a year. Like I said, man, with Corona, I really haven't had, you know, I really haven't had any willingness to go anywhere because what's the point if everything's going to be closed, you know? But anyway, so I take off I bleed the rear brakes, and then what I'm doing is I ran new lines to the rear. Now, I didn't plan on putting new lines on the axle here, but what happened was I had got the other side free and clear when I was bleeding it, but this side I couldn't get it to bleed because the wheel cylinder had been rusted shut. I took the wheel cylinder off, and the mother jammer was rusted shut. So, like I said, man, when you got a hoopty and you don't want to spend any money, you got to pull one of them zip ties and bi-splice moves and just take something off another car. So what I did was I took the wheel cylinder off the Suburban when I had done the brakes and and then I had a spare wheel cylinder because when I had done, hold on, let's go over to the Suburban for a minute, right? I want to show you something. Well, can't show you something, but let me explain something in detail. This car also has the D wheels, right? But when I went to go bleed the brakes on this side, the bleeder screw snapped off. The bleeder screw snapped off when I went to bleed the brakes, so I went out and bought a whole new wheel cylinder and then put it in because I had to finish the job. So then once I finished the job, I still had a functional wheel cylinder, and I was able to use, you know, vice grips to get that broken wheel cylinder out. Get that broken bleeder screw out. So once I got the bleeder screw out, I just took the bleeder screw out of this one, which was functional, but it was just filled with dirt. So, you know, I put a paper clip in there and some pipe cleaner and some brake clean, and I got it free. Put that wheel cylinder on put this bleeder screw on the wheel cylinder I got off the Suburban, and then I put it on this car. Now I got functional brakes. And it didn't cost me any money at all because I was using a part that I already had, which is what you want because, you know, when you get these hoopties, man, you don't want them to nickel and dime you to death. You're just supposed to get in them and whip them around and have some fun. What else? This door works fine. Oh, see, this door works fine right here. This door has more controls in it, so it works fine too, but the door panel was so beat up, I couldn't use it. And instead of, you know, looking around for another door skin, I just run it without the door skin. I mean, you'll see, look. See? I just run the sucker without the door skin. I mean, I got my window motors right up in here, nice tucked away, and, you know, you get a lot of road noise, but listen, that's solid. You get a lot of road noise, but the thing is, I mean, I don't want to bother looking for another wheel. Looking for another door skin. What's the point? I mean, you know, this is going to have some fun with this thing. Now, what I want to do was just find another one because I really like these. Oh, let's see. Oh, jeez. Ooh, shadow. I really like these town cars. You know, this is the first generation when a town car was all itself, its own model. In the previous ones, the town car was a trim line on the Continental. This is the first generation with the first refresh. So the first generation goes from 1980 to 1989, and the refresh happened in 1985, you know. And then, yeah, man, this car is great. I'll show you under the hood. You know, nothing fancy. The car just has a 302 in it. They all came with 302s. Ford was just trying to modify. No, this lid is heavy. This hood is heavy. Let me tell y'all something. If you got one of these and you got a Crown Vic or you have a Grand Marquis and you lift the hood, that hood is stamped steel. It's pretty light. If you got this Lincoln, these hoods are heavy. You know, that's why they give you gas struts on this thing. They give you gas struts because this hood is heavy, man. All right, so what did I do on this car? Well, I replaced those struts. That was one thing. Those hood struts, I replaced those. Uh, radiator, radiator was leaking. When I got the car, the guy said, he said the water pump was bad. So I got a water pump from Cardone, put it in, water pump leaked as soon as I got it. So I got another water pump. Got that one from AutoZone, put that one in, haven't had any problems. So, what else here? What did I do? So I put the water pump in, I put the radiator in. Uh, Not much. I mean, valve cover gaskets. Uh, yeah, man. Like I said, brakes. I did the whole brakes. That's a new master cylinder. All those lines are new. Well, the ones after the combination valve. All those lines are new from the combination valve. Replaced the fuel line because, you know, on this car, the fuel line and the brake line run parallel to each other. So when one fails and you touch one, you're going to rupture the other one. So keep that in mind. Uh, yeah, man. This car's relatively, you know, these things are so easy. These 302s, man. You know, so that's pretty much it. You know, you start it up. Uh, it's got a little exhaust leak, but that's because the pipe that runs through the catalytic converter rusted out. But not really worried about that because the car's so old that, you know, there's no emissions test for this car anyway. All they're really doing is making sure you have all of the original components. That's what they do in New York. If your car is before 1990, you know, do you have all the components the car was built with? And then you say yes, and then you get your inspection, and nobody's actually putting it on one of those exhaust gas analyzers. They're not doing that. There's a thing about this car that Lincolns have that the other ones don't have. Now, it's these things right here. The driver's side wiper arm. Now, you remember back in the 70s, all of the full-size cars had articulating wiper arms, right? And I just think that's real cool, man. I just think that's one of the coolest things ever. They don't do it anymore, but, you know, but everyone had their own specific design. Now, Ford used, you know, if I had an older one, I wanted to show you the difference, because the difference between the Ford Mercury one and the Lincoln one is the angle of the arm. See, there's a second arm here, right? There's a second arm in here that when the wiper blade comes up, it pushes it towards the center, towards the edge of the window. But on the Lincolns, they have this curve here, right? This one curve right here. On the Fords and the Mercuries, they use the same arm up here at the head, right? And they use the same base, but there's no curve in the arm. That's just one. I just think that's one great looking. You know, I mean, it's like an ancillary design characteristic, but I love it, man. I just think it's so great. But yeah, so um, there was a thing I wanted to explain to you guys how to make this car faster, or not really faster, but to make it more responsive. To make it more responsive, may give you a better throttle response. Jeez, 25 minutes in already? Shoot. All right, well, let me make it quick then, all right? All right, there's a thing on this car because when you look back here, right? I don't want to take the air can pan off, but if you see this white hose right here, this white, you see it right there? Right, let me see if I can touch it right there. Can you get, there's no light back there. Okay, so there's a cable that runs through the throttle linkage. I probably have to take this thing off. Watch. Fuck. All right, let me take it off. I'm gonna take it off. 1 and 2. All right, there we go. Let me try to put the air cleaner in a way you can see it. There we go. That's good. All right, now you can see it, right? What we have here, this cable right here, next to the white one. This is actually the modulator for our cruise control. So when you got the cruise control on, it runs the linkage. It keeps the throttle wherever you set it. See, it's got a cable here, and it comes to this speed servo right here. But the one next to it, with the spring round around it, this one right here. See, got your linkage. You know, this is throttle body injections. You got your injectors there. You got your linkage right here. Now, this connects to the transmission. This is your kickdown label, your kickdown lever right here. Jeez. And this is the one that connects to the throttle pedal, your gas pedal. All right, now we get in the car, and I'll show you. And get over here to the gas pedal. Okay, get to the gas pedal. Now the cable runs through and it connects at the top of the pedal. The cable comes through and it connects at the top of the pedal. Oh, jeez, my knees. Ooh, la, ooh, ooh. Oh, right, okay. So what you do is, hold on, let me grab them. I grab them and I'll show you right here. Now, at the top of the pedal, there's going to be slack in that cable where it comes to the pedal. So what you want to do is you want to take these ties, and you know, these are smaller ones, so you want to get the bigger ones, the bigger ties, and you want to tie these around where the pedal comes through, where the cable comes through the pedal. When you tie these, you put these ties around where the accelerator cable comes through the pedal, you're taking up slack. Now you get about 3 in there or 4 in there. Now the pedal response is improved because now there's no slack in that line. So immediately when you step on that, when you step on the fuel pedal, you're getting action on the throttle linkage. And that action is what's going to make the car more responsive, because you also change, right? Because what you're also doing is you're making you're eliminating the slack in this cable. So you're making this response you're making it more responsive to what you want to do. All right? And it's going to help you, well, it's going to help you when you get on the highway and you need passing power. Because these cars were initially very slow, but what happened was, you know, they were initially very slow. You can get up to speed, but now what you've done when you eliminated that slack, you're getting yourself more throttle response. So blammo, you get on the highway, and this car will just take right off. All right. I mean, on this car, I had to use 4 of those black cable ties, zip ties. I had to use 4 zip ties to eliminate all the slack in the pedal. You know, I mean, you could use I guess a metal bushing too, but you have to make sure that, you know, it doesn't slide through the hole, and it does what it's supposed to do. Anything that you can use just to take up the slack in the line is all you really want to do. That's all you want to do, because once that slack is in the line, the car, especially when you're climbing a hill, the car will be incredibly slow. So if you can do this thing, if you can do that to give yourself better throttle response, you know, that'll mean you will force a downshift earlier in your climb, which will help you. I mean, your fuel efficiency will drop, but it'll help you because there won't be a bunch of people behind you trying to climb the same dang hill while you sitting up here trying to do it at 20 miles an hour. You'll force a downshift, put the car in the third, put the car in the second, so you can get up the hill. Uh, Other than that, you know, this car is done for. You know, I mean, it runs good, but there's really not much I can do with it because the frame is rotted out. So I'm looking for another one. And then, from there. But like I said, man, these cars also, these Panther bodies, simple cars to work on. They're very simple. They're OBD1. I mean, but even that is relatively, you're never going to have that many problems. I mean, if you are, they're going to be electrical, but mildly electrical. Like, you're going to get like an injector pulse problem because these injectors are old. I've got two new injectors in the glove box. So they'll run, but what happens when injectors fail is they tend to bleed when the car's not on. So the cylinders, they tend to get flooded, or it's not easy starting. You got to give it some throttle to get some air into the intake because your fuel ratio is messed up because your injectors are leaking. Um, your evap junk, and but basically other than that, it's solid, man. You're not going to develop any real problems with these things. And these are great highway cars. I mean, you're going to get about 15 miles a gallon, 16 miles a gallon in this thing, but you're going to like it. So, other than that, yeah, just pretty much this one right here, 85 Lincoln Town Car. You know, pretty heavy. So you couldn't do an Uncle Tony bottle rocket thing with this no matter what, because this thing is about 4,000 pounds, and bottle rocket I think is like 3,000 pounds. But yeah, man, it's been good.